Imagine you're gone and someone else is living inside your body. On this episode of The Devil's Workshop, it's Abel Ferrara's Body Snatchers. Hello, and welcome to the Devil's Workshop podcast. I am your host, Nick Oliver.
And I am your host, Katie Oliver.
And we have a doozy this go-around, I think. This is going to be a really interesting movie to talk about. A
real objet d'art, if you will.
Yeah, I wouldn't, but mostly because I don't know what that means.
I'm just being facetious. I'm being annoying.
Oh, you don't know what that means either?
Yeah, I've got no idea.
Right.
This is gonna be a fun one to talk about, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Do you want to just go right into our history with this?
Yeah, let's. I don't have much of one. We watched this movie together about, what would you say, like a year ago? Thereabouts?
Pretty recent. I'm not sure it was a year.
Was
but,
it within a year?
It was the past a couple years at least. So yeah, in terms of a lot of the stuff we've talked about.
To the place where we're presently living. So it was pretty recent.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, yes.
No.
Letterboxd will prove me right.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, we're going to the judges. Judges? Judges.
What's a judge song? Like, I almost started singing the graduation song, but that's not a judge song. That's a different one.
A judge song?
Yeah, like, a stately courtroom. I get not a lot of music in a courtroom. I don't know. I don't know what's happening.
All right. Well, while you're looking for evidence to prove me wrong, which is exactly that's how relationships.
That's how a
work.
Marriage works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will talk about
your history, perhaps?
Yeah. Well, it's our history. We've watched it for the first time together. There is some context. I believe I was the first person to show you the 1978 Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
That's true. You were.
Which is a personal favorite. I think that's a really amazing movie. I've never seen the 50s one. It's 56. She's looking at me like she's found some information that she wants to share with the audience.
It's pertinent, but please finish.
No. We're gonna get into this now because I feel like I'm about to be absolved.
Listener, I want you to know, we watched it for the first time February of 2025, aka almost exactly 1 year ago.
No, there's no way. Really?
Letterboxd doesn't lie, my man.
I don't know about that.
Well, maybe someone replaced my husband.
That's right.
with a perfect duplicate who just simply can't remember when we watch certain movies.
We're otherwise exactly the same. That's the one difference.
That's the only measurable, empirically observable difference.
Anyway, yeah. So the Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the 78 one, I really loved that movie. I showed it to you. And I
love that movie.
Yeah, I remember you really were into it as well. That's one that I remember seeing when I was really young. It made an impression on me.
Very cold, that movie.
Yeah. But great. Downer ending. Just awesome movie. Again, I hadn't seen the 50s one. Mm-hmm. But, this movie I was aware of, but it's much less famous than the other two. Yeah,
this feels like a kind of like a quiet gasp of a movie, that most people never even heard.
Yeah, well, it's a weird movie for this director, too, because the director, Abel Ferrara, he's done other stuff. He does actually have some other horror stuff in his career, but most of that seems secondary to what he's mostly famous for, which are these really brutal crime dramas. Lots of like the brutality of violence and the mafia, things like that.
Sure.
So,
sort of, I have a little bit of a sleaze impression from him.
Yeah.
Not as in like a sleazy person, but in like that sort of like New York sleaze substrate of movies.
I don't have that impression. I wouldn't know.
I honestly couldn't say.
Yeah, I've never seen it. Christopher Walken worked with him a lot.
Though this movie makes me want to watch more of his catalog.
Me too.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this movie, I'm not sure how it did at the box office or anything, but it seemed like it did. It is a little bit forgotten, unlike the others. The others seem to have made more of an impression.
Yeah.
Didn't seem to linger in the consciousness. I mean, this is a weird time for horror as a genre, like horror films. There's stuff from this period I really love. The best example of that being Candyman. But we're still coming off the big wave of slashers at this point, and the film-going audiences seem like they're kind of exhausted. There have been like 10 or 12 years of the same of horror being really dominant in a way.
Yeah.
That seem to exhaust people, and so there's this sort of a dark period in a way. There's a lot of stuff from this time that I think didn't get its due necessarily because of the overabundance of horror that had preceded this.
Yeah, and this is a bit of a transitional period, I think. Like looking for like what is the new voice of horror, or like the new shape. Because this is something like this. Like, what do you think of when you think of 90s horror? Like, what's ubiquitously 90s? To me,
Scream.
Scream, yeah. This is not Scream. This
Right.
feels like... What this feels like is like... If 80s is schlock, the early 90s feels like unschlock to me. Like something like a Candyman, the example that you gave is a beautiful example of that. Like, it's so deeply felt and like almost like tender and gorgeous. And I think a movie like this is kind of operating in a similar fashion.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
It doesn't have that sort of like, this is, I think, rather a cynical movie, but it's not like too cool for school. Like, it's still somewhat earnest, I think, which is interesting.
Yeah, and I have to say, so when you and I watched this, according to you, in February 2025, I think I don't know about that, but
AKA listeners, a year ago,
Right.
as I said previously.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But whenever we watched it, no one can say for sure.
Could have been 2023, could have been 2020, for all that anyone knows.
I liked it. I didn't love it.
I wasn't sold on this movie.
Yeah,
at the
I
time.
felt like it was squandering elements of its premise. Whereas on a rewatch, I have to say I liked it much more than I did. I think it really changed a lot for me.
Well, and it feels whole in a way that I don't know if that registered for me last time. And part of me wants to look at like what were we watching right around that time that made us feel that way? Because like watching movies for us feels like such a tapestry where like the movies that you watch before and after really have a lot to do with your opinion. I mean, it's like the Hannibal effect.
Yeah. That's interesting. Maybe I was just in a bad mood. I mean, one never knows. You always bring something to the operation when you're in the audience, whether or not it's your ability to understand something, your inability. Maybe somebody cut you off in traffic that day and you're just not there. I mean, who knows? But
criticism is an imperfect art.
Yeah, so I thought this was going to be probably a simpler episode to undertake, actually, because our last one was a bit of an asshole.
Well,
frankly.
And, on the other side of the scales, this movie is a toit 88 minutes or so.
Indeed, yeah. So we're thinking, okay, this is actually not. We love a tight 90 in this house. We're under that.
Yeah.
We're actually shorter than an hour and a half, which that's normally a bad sign. Actually.
What are you going to do with your extra 2 minutes?
Yeah, normally because everybody's targeting 90. So if they wind up under 90, if they can't quite reach it, then they're padding it out.
That's usually a sign like, oh, we probably better put in some more scenes of them walking around the woods.
So I'm thinking like, okay, this is going to be something we can watch. We can find our criticism easily enough.
I think,
this will be a simpler movie to
expedient,
fix.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that.
No, it wasn't that at all. I mean, not to say that it was hard.
But I found myself really thinking about this one.
Yeah, because this movie has been given that same amount of thought.
Yeah.
That's abundantly clear.
Yeah.
We're already sort of bleeding into the workshop section. So do you want to just officially go ahead and start the workshop?
Let's raise the curtain. Let's just go for it.
Okay. Okay, you want to start, or shall I?
Ooh, let me think.
I have a good starting point because I think I have a good
Yeah.
mild starting point.
Get in there.
So I'll do that. So as far as what's working for me, this is something that I think is really interesting about this movie. So the first thing that a movie like this needs. So this is I wouldn't call it a remake necessarily, though you could. So this is
Reimagining, perhaps.
yeah. So Body Snatchers is a novel, which was I'm not sure that the original novel is particularly famous, but the '50s movie in its time was famous. The late '70s movie in its time was famous. Famous in a way that it entered into our language. This feels like it's kind of falling away now because it's been a while since this has been an important property. But pod person was part of our language. That's in our lexicon. Which horror occasionally will do that. Anything can do that.
Soylent Green is people.
Stepford Wives.
Stepford
You can call
Wives.
somebody a Stepford wife. So this is it was important enough that it sort of entered our culture in that way. Oh, that person's a pod person. They're not normal. So again, I haven't seen the '50s one. The '70s one is a classic. It's a personal favorite of mine. So why are we remaking this or slash readapting it? What's the point? So the first thing that they do right, it's not. This is a completely original story. So it has very little in common with the others. I did check the basic story of the '50s one to make sure I was correct about that. So I haven't seen that, but I do know that to be true. There are common elements between the two of them. The lead in the '50s movie is a psychiatrist, whereas this movie doesn't feature a psychiatrist. He's like the chief medical officer of the military. So he stands in as a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
The '70s one, the lead is the health inspector. Which this guy is the EPA inspector, so which that works because it's a way to get an outside presence into a closed environment. So they still use that tactic, but additionally they begin at different points. So in the '70s movie, at least, it's only just begun. So you see the alien life form landing basically at the beginning of the opening credits of that movie. And so their space spores are landing, they're falling down with the rain, they hit the soil, they just begin to grow. Some people find them like, oh, this is a weird plant, look at this, right? And then eventually society begins to break down as human beings are replaced by pod people. This one, we're well into it.
This is more in that like Welcome to Raccoon City camp where it's already kind of deeply embedded, I think.
Yeah, which is what one of the things I like about it. So I like that about this movie, but additionally I like it because so much of the '70s movie, at least, is in that movie. It's an hour in. I checked it before today. We're an hour in before a major character is revealed to be a pod person.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and even he's probably like sixth build in the cast. I guess I don't know that, but for sure. But yeah, so it eventually presses inward. So like the lower billing, just the infection sort of works its way up until eventually you get to the top two cast members. But a lot of that is like who's a pod person, who's not, who's who they say they are, who can be trusted. Is society breaking down? That's that movie, and it really is that. That's the tension that drives that story. This movie, we have really very little of that. You walk in, boom, there's pod people.
This movie starts like a lawnmower.
Yeah.
Like it's like yank, 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 and then you're off.
Right.
You're off to the races.
30 minutes into this movie, Carol, the stepmother, is a pod person. So you have that imminent threat that's in the house with you.
Yeah.
So the tension that drives this movie is very different. So the story is different. The what's propelling the story is very different. So the point that I'm working toward ultimately, that what is working here is this is a movie that had a lot to do to justify its existence and also separate itself as being something distinct, which it has done to me.
Yeah, at the very least structurally, and narratively as well. I think like to me, Invasion of the Body Snatchers is one of those iconic horror properties or concepts, shall we say, that like function so perfectly as a barometer for social anxieties, like the vampire does, or like certain stories or certain concepts, zombies, like they are ciphers. They can mean whatever they need to mean, or they like whatever the zeitgeist suggests that they mean at the time. I think like this is an evergreen property.
Yeah. So
it keeps being remade because we keep being, as a culture, anxious about the threat of contamination or invasion or being sort of corrupted from the inside.
Yeah, loss of the self. That's the fear, really, that in the Body Snatchers idea that like you are yourself and you're going to continue on, but you're not yourself anymore.
Yeah.
Like there's something that is deeply and sort of primally frightening about that. It's the sort of thing that's like, oh, I've lost my mind, and so I'm not myself. Maybe I'm sick. I've dementia. And like I'm not myself. I've lost my memories, the things that make me me, and so I'm no longer myself. I mean, it's a real world example of something that this movie is sort of reaching toward.
And like the idea that the self could be so fragile.
Sure.
And also so mutually constituted by like the people around you, know, and that like it takes really very little to completely destabilize an entire planet at the largest scale.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, and like this 90s version, like this is not the last time that story has been told on screen. What was Invasion, like 2006, 7, something like that?
Yeah, I have not seen that movie. I know it's supposed to have been a dud.
I saw it as a tween, remember nothing except that I didn't really care for it.
Nicole
but like,
Kidman and I think a pre-Bond Daniel Craig.
Oh my gosh.
I think.
Wow. I was probably like 12 or 13, so I would have to watch it again.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you think about it, we're probably just about due for another one.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Unless society has just lost interest completely.
I would be really into that.
I would too.
Yeah.
I would too. I would love to see like what is the fear now. I mean, probably AI, like whatever.
Yeah, it could be anything. Social media, who knows? I mean, and these are all, they're not as obvious as you may think. So in the 50s, I think they were dealing with communism.
Cold War, McCarthyism.
That's a big theme through a lot of those 50s sci-fi movies, so that's not exactly shocking. In the 70s, it's been a little while since I've watched that, but I think that the sort of anxiety that's propelling that is like social and cultural change in the late 70s. So there's a lot of like psychiatry / woo bullshit.
Psychoanalysis.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like, everyone's afraid of, in that movie, becoming like a pathetic Woody Allen person.
Right. Yeah. But there's like a post-hippie self-absorption
sort of a
cross with like mantras and
backslide into social conservatism.
Yeah. There's consumerist elements to it. Yeah. It's kind of an interesting thing.
Being anxious because the 80s are coming.
Yeah.
Because it's almost the Reagan years.
Right. Whereas, I mean, I haven't seen that in a little bit, so it's maybe a little more incisive, and I'm just throwing out like a miasma of things that I feel like it involves. It might be a little more specific than
I think our impression is roughly the same. And then this is kind of serving up a completely different host of anxiesities. This 90, is it 93, 94?
This is 93.
93, the year of my birth.
Yeah. Oh, isn't that nice?
That's nice.
I want to come back to that, actually, if that's okay.
Sure, of course.
What this movie is actually addressing, because I think that's one of the things that's more interesting about it. Because I think that it goes in a direction that's maybe not so obvious.
Yeah, sure.
So I'd like to table that if we could and return to that.
Here, we're gonna push that to the middle of the table because that's dessert.
Okay.
But we got to eat our entree first.
All right.
I will lob one into the conversation. Just that we always start talking about performances. And I think this cast overall really works for me.
Yeah, they're all great.
Yeah. It's some highlights for me. I think Gabrielle Anwar is really good.
Mm-hmm.
She sells a kind of a difficult role, or a role with a lot of potential to be unlikable. And she does it well.
Yeah.
Like with ease.
Yeah, she's playing brat. You're
Disaffected?
sympathetic to her, but it's so I don't mean as dismissively as the word implies, but she's like the bratty teenager in a way.
Shall we say like the chafing teenager?
Yeah.
She's struggling. She's
Right.
having a difficult time.
But she's not annoying. You're not frustrated with her.
No,
anytime
you
see her.
understand why she is acting the way she
Right.
is. While I think you're also mostly sympathetic to the
Mm-hmm.
parents as well. Also, good God, Meg Tilly is so good in this.
Mm-hmm.
Why was she not a bigger star? She's so good.
Yeah, she's real
really
standout
something,
here.
and her look is so unique. She's giving such an interesting and strange performance.
Mm-hmm.
Like she makes some weird choices.
Yeah,
but
she does feel alien by the time she's taken over.
Oh yeah. I really like her in this.
Yeah.
Honestly, I can't think of.
They're all great. Billy Wirth.
I really like Billy Wirth.
So Tim, the love interest soldier, the helicopter pilot. I do think, I don't mean this as dismissively as it's going to sound, but I think that there are a lot of long shots of him just sort of looking longingly at Marty, who is Gabriel Anwar. And then it cuts to a long shot of her looking at him longingly. And they're sort of staring at each other like from either side of a doorway. Yeah. And I think you can make a really funny supercut of him just doing that. And every time that he does it, you could just cut in him going, and then it cuts back to her and she's like, ooh. You could have a lot of fun with that.
You could.
But that's what his Graze is saying.
What I thought you were gonna say is like, you've got him looking, and then you cut to like a shot of like a honey baked ham or something. He's just like, or like the McRib. I don't know. But like, it would be just really. That would be really delightful.
Yeah, I was thinking just a pure dub. Dub on.
Yeah.
Because he's definitely got like a come hither look constantly. Like he just has this like just smoldering sexuality about this guy. And it's amazing.
I'm gonna say too, like that's tough. That's a tough sell.
Yeah.
And he nails it. And so does she. Like they really sell the chemistry between them.
No, I'm teasing them, but I'm only doing so lovingly. I think that there's some really amazing stuff on screen between the two of them.
Some beautiful, beautiful facial acting.
Yeah.
And I know you're gonna know what scene I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But there's a look that the two of them exchange when they're playing Never Have I Ever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, it gives me chills.
Yeah. They call it I Never because they hadn't figured out how to name it properly in the early 90s. That came later.
That's weird.
Yeah, I know.
That's weird to think about. But I just think like what a beautiful moment.
Yeah, everything about that scene is great. One of the things that they do in that is they are nearby running water. And so light is cast on the running water. It's reflecting off of that through plant life. So the light is sort of dancing across their faces in a way that's really visually striking while the two of them are centered in the frame. It's just shot reverse shot, but the scene feels really kinetic also because of the way the light is dancing across their expressions, which are impactful but also restrained. It's a masterclass, really.
Yeah, and it's in its simplicity too. You know?
It's so simple.
I feel like another director could have the same storyboard, could have the same camera angles, and it just be totally flat. Totally flat. So yeah, I feel like the theme of this episode / this movie is like how to do a lot with a little. It's so stripped down. And the structure of the movie is so tight. I generally think that works to its benefit like 99.9% of the time. And this movie is so focused on just like letting the actors perform and like sell this to you. It's really good.
Yeah, and the script doesn't let them down, I think. So you have people who are bringing their A game in terms of performance. You have the script also, I think, doing them justice for the most part. I mean, I have problems. I have a couple of problems.
This is not a perfect movie, but it's worth watching.
It's so close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It needs
it's
so
so
little.
close. I forgot to mention earlier, so I'll go ahead and address it now. But this is on Tubi. So you can just Google this and watch it right away. I will say it doesn't deserve to be on Tubi. It's better than that. But
find means to watch it.
That means it's free. You can just go watch it right now. You don't even have to get a Tubi account. If you Google this movie in the Tubi, then you just hit click play and you're watching it. You even have to sign up.
And I do think, like, while the convenience is excellent, you would be doing yourself a favor if you watch this movie not interrupted every 19 minutes by Tide commercials. Like let it breathe, because it's such a quick breath anyway.
Yeah.
I
was derailed by that sudden thought coming in, but sort of mirroring what you were saying, the storytelling here is extremely subtle. So what we don't have. I mean, often you can. I think we'll spend a lot of time pointing to things the movie does have, but also what it doesn't have. There are really no people telling us about their feelings. There's no big speeches about, here's what I feel about what's happening. There's really no giant exposition dumps. There's only really one, which is General Platt telling the crazed Major Collins partway through the movie, like, yeah, we're aliens, here we go. That's really the only time that happens. And even in that case, there's you do eventually need that. You need to have the pod people eventually explore, what are we here, what do we want, what's this for, you need something.
I mean, I think there's a little bit in the voiceover that bookends the film, just like a little bit of like, we'll
talk about that voiceover.
We will. But
I hesitate to call that even an exposition dump, because that's just the setup.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah. Because in that case, like at the beginning, like, we're here with the EPA and I'm tired of being with my family. But that's just the movie. So it feels a little different. Anyway, so but because we don't have those things, we understand the characters well enough that they are generally not needed. I mean, you do occasionally get Gabrielle Anwar, Marty. She once or twice will make a big sort of grandiose speech, or not really a speech, but like a statement, like a dramatic way that a dramatic teen would talk.
Because she is a teenager.
That's what she is. Like it feels false in a way that a teenager feels false, because they're
trying shit on.
Yeah, but they're trapped in circumstances that they can't control, and so they're looking for ways to make themselves understood and be taken seriously. And so that's one way that a teenager might do that, is speaking in a way that's heightened. It makes sense, and it reads as real.
Yeah, and Marty is also searching for meaning, seeking some kind of profundity, I think.
But she has the immaturity about her that will make her do that, which we also, in terms of subtlety, I mean, you see that again later, because she's flirting with this she's flirting with this soldier, right? And so she's playing a little game, which is a silly little teen game.
Party game.
Yeah, party game. Put your hands up, and you hold your digits up. So all 10 digits, you put them up, and if you try to get the other person to put their fingers down, so like, oh, I've never flown in a helicopter, because she says that to her would-be boyfriend, because
he's a
helicopter pilot,
right.
So he has to put his finger down, right? So they're goofing off, and he's teasing her a little bit, and she says, I've never had to shoot anyone. Casually. It's like, it's playful when she slips it out, and his expression drops subtly, slightly.
Yeah.
And he puts the finger down, and she realizes, oh, I've made a mistake. It's not intentional or callous, but she realizes without anything, she just asks where, which she says it's Kuwait. I mean, this is 1993, so that's the timeline that we're talking about. But again, subtle storytelling.
Yeah.
So what follows, she's then demonstrated as being perceptive, because she's realizes what she's done. She sees that the subtle changes in his behavior, in his facial acting, right? And so the next thing she says is, I never conceal my emotions. So there's this moment of recognition, like she is actually reading something in him. He is concealing his reaction to having to talk about having killed someone before. But she spots it, like she recognizes it. That's important, right? So that makes their relationship, that equalizes them.
Yeah.
In a way.
And
because she can see through him.
And that's such a growth moment for her, too. Like, I think, through playing the game and asking that personal, invasive, upsetting question, like, she's like, oh, I have opened a door into the world of adults. This is an adult world that I've stepped into.
Yeah.
And she doesn't really go back after that.
Yeah. But in making that recognition, she makes herself, like, sort of proudly stakes her claim, like, I do belong here in a way, which I think is great. But there's more plot relevance. It's not just the depth of who she is as a person. So later on, her father has been turned into a pod person, and they're in the car. And her father is saying, we can conceal, like, if it's okay to fool them. Like, or we can fool them. If you pretend to not have any emotions, if you're just blank, the pod people will not realize that you're not a pod person. They can be tricked. They can be fooled. And she's looking at him, and she realizes, you're a pod person. And she knows that not because of any other movie would have him saying, oh, I love you, kiddo, or you're my favorite daughter, whatever. There'd be something that he would slip up in the information that he would give. Or he would act in a way that we, the audience, would recognize, like, that's not her father. That's a pod person, right? Well, we don't get that. But she gets it because she's perceptive. So she can recognize when people are concealing their emotions. Well, he's not concealing his emotion because he's a pod person.
Right.
So he is instead a pod person pretending to be a human who is concealing his emotions.
Yeah.
And she's got that skill. Like, we've seen it already in the movie. It's been demonstrated to us as the audience that she can do that. And so she realizes that he's a pod person. But she figures it out quicker than we do.
Right.
So we watch it and we're like, oh God, because eventually, like, Tim shows up and she wrests the gun from Tim and fires at the dad and shoots him. And so and you're thinking, oh God, this is where this movie's going. She shot her own father. That's going to be the horror scene. So we're having that moment of anxiety and seeing it, but she knows.
She knows.
But we don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good writing.
Yeah. I actually, just to give the tiniest little peek ahead, I played around with the character of Marty a lot. Like, I chose to make some small changes to her and see, like, what consequences it would have on the story. And I'm really excited to tell you about my revision later.
Interesting.
Yeah. But that's neither here nor there. That's for later. But yeah, no, there's a lot of really great writing in this. Even just like the way the family dynamics are performed in Marty's family are really interesting to me. Because, like, Marty resents Carol. Carol kind of ignores Marty most of the time, probably because Marty's a pill. Because she resents Carol. And meanwhile,
I would like to add to that, actually, because I went back and I was looking for this specifically. If I didn't miss something, I'm not going to say for sure that I didn't. I think she only addresses Marty once in the whole movie.
Yeah, I think that's true.
I think she only speaks to her directly one time.
I think that's true. And that implies so much about the relationship. Either that Carol is, what Marty doesn't like about her and is sort of just disinterested in her, or, Marty has consistently pushed her away so many times that she has decided to focus her efforts on Andy. Thinking that there's just never going to be much of a relationship between her and Marty.
Daughter or stepdaughter and stepmother.
Yeah. And simultaneously, I really like that Marty, like, ultimately, I guess, does resent Carol's presence and perhaps also Andy's presence, but she's not cruel to Andy. It's like she's just adult enough to understand that she has to separate the two.
Andy is her half brother, and she's about halfway fond of him. Yeah, that's about where it is. I mean, she's a teenager. She's a late teenager. And Andy is, I'm not totally sure what age he is.
5-ish, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. He seems pretty young to me, but yeah, I don't have the greatest eye for that.
Little.
He's little, yeah. I was looking to see if he was in a car seat. I thought that was going to be a clue, but he's not in a car seat in the movie. But I mean, it's the 90s, so...
Yeah.
We're lucky he wasn't, like, smoking back there.
They're finger painting in his little daycare class.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it doesn't seem compulsory for him to go to school. So maybe he's like 4.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, but so anyway, a teenager of that age would probably openly resent a full-blooded brother, like in a normal family dynamic anyway. Mm-hmm. So I don't. I'm not going to hold that against her too much. But yeah, she does. She is kind to him, but she says to Tim that she wants to give him away. I mean, it's a playful remark for sure, but it does imply a certain amount of tension. She complains in the voiceover that it's tough being stuck in the car with a toddler. She might have actually said what age he is now that I think about it in the voiceover.
Yeah, I can't remember anymore.
Yeah, that escapes me.
Well, and she's ticked off that they have to share a room.
Yeah, she doesn't like that. But in the end,
that would also probably be true if they were fully blood siblings,
right?
Just given the different ages that they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, but I like
that relationship.
I like it. Yeah. I think the family is well constructed on the screen. I'm trying to think of what else do we want to talk about? Oh.
Well, quite a lot about the family actually.
Yeah.
So I think this would be a good opportunity to talk about what I think this movie is really about.
Yeah.
This is going to relate, I think, to what's not working for me also. So I will come back to this. This is kind of a weird movie to talk about because I think it's so close to being a perfect movie to me, that, it's hard to invoke one thing without involving every other thing.
Basically. It's like you pull on the thread and
everything comes apart. Yeah, but that's a well put together movie is like that. A great script is like that. A great movie with great acting with all of these things that eventually becomes that. So anyway, one of the things that's really exciting to me about this movie is that we're really subverting the obvious, because I'm not sure that we've really lingered on it so far, but the movie's premised on an EPA investigator bringing his family along to investigate chemical storage by the military. So they have like the summer project. She doesn't get to have her little summer at home. They're a blended family, and they're going to military bases, and they're living in military housing, and that's how they get into this base where pod people are taking over. So when I hear about the premise of this movie, like, okay, pod people, military, all right, got it. Like, I feel like I know what this movie is. I mean, I wouldn't go so far as say, all right, I've seen it already, but I'm like, okay, this is a movie that's going to have, that's the thing that's being critiqued, is the military industrial complex. There's going to be there's gonna be a lot about self-destruction or war or conformity, of course. So everybody becoming the same for the purpose of the whole. I mean, what's the military does to an extent. Like it's your
depersonalization,
right? So we're all gonna wear the same clothes. We're gonna have the same haircuts because we're now part of a unit or part of a greater whole, and we're contributing to something else. So I'm expecting that that's what the movie's gonna be. And it's not really that. Not really. I mean, that is an element of the story.
It's not there. But that's like, I don't think that's the principal anxiety that the movie investigates.
Yeah. With the unit of conformity here, the source of the loss of self that the movie is making a comment on through pod people is the family. The family unit.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of skepticism of the family unit, which is great. Everybody in there is playing their role against their will. So the teen daughter, our lead character, is the one who's rejecting it rather openly. That's her position in the family. But the stepmother is completely disinterested in her stepdaughter. Dad is rather annoyed with his daughter, given the way that she's her teenage brattiness, right? Brattiness again, not as scathing as that maybe would imply. He even tells her.
Buzz off.
Yeah, he tells her like, go, just go. Like, hey,
if you want to go, so
if you
bad,
just
go.
leave the family. Yeah. That's fine. And you do feel like he kind of means it.
And it's clearly such a slap when he says it to her.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, you're not even gonna like tell me to stay.
Yeah,
and it all goes unsaid, but it's clear like what everyone is feeling in that moment.
Yeah. And the young son, Marty's half brother, the son of the two married parents, he's rejected by his half sister, at least in part, at least halfway. And then he is doing okay with it. He's generally happy at first until his mom dies.
Yeah.
Which, when you're watching that, you're thinking this kid is too young to know what a dead mom is. But you realize he's part of this blended family, and he understands that Marty's mom is dead. So he's able to understand his own mother being dead through his understanding of his sister.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting to me.
There's also that sort of like the lizard brain of the child. Like, what does a child know better in this case than its own mother? You know, like, and like that is not my mother.
Yeah, well, not just that, but like my mother's dead.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, not just like that's not my mother. It's like that's not my mother, and also my mother's dead now.
Yeah,
that's too much for a kid. But anyway, so he joins that, and then he's all in on the misery, just like the rest of the family. I think that's super interesting. Again, this is something that we will need to return to.
Yeah.
However, because we're going to come to a section of this workshop called "What's Not Working."
Spoiler!
And we're going to
alert.
have to refer to that.
Well, and before we move on, I do just want to say I totally agree with you. I really find it so interesting that the movie destabilizes the family unit rather than affirming it, because in so many sort of apocalyptic movies or apocalypse scenarios, what are you left with? Like a young man, a young woman, and a young child. So you have like the symbolic family, if not the literal blood flesh family. And like, I get why that crops up again and again, because so many people's lives are structured around those basic family shapes, but it becomes really pat and like trite and frustrating and tiresome after a while. So it's weird to say, but this movie's suspicion of the family as a structure feels like refreshing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. It really is funny. Anyway, one thing I wanted to say, and I know like this is not super in the scope of what we do, what we talk about, it's just something I really like, the effects. I really like the way all the pod tendrils and the chalky mummies and stuff look.
Oh yeah, sure.
I just think they're fun.
Everything about this movie looks good.
Yeah.
Related to what this movie's about, I think one of the things that's interesting about it is this movie is kind of pro-military in a way that I think is interesting. Again, for a movie that I think is going to be anti-military, like when I'm starting it, thinking, okay, what comment are we going to have about the military? What scathing point of view? But the military, I think, is presented pretty well, actually. So the soldiers, we don't get to know very many of them, but the ones we do get, I think, are all decent enough characters. So the romantic lead, Tim, he's swell. We like Tim quite well. Yeah, he's a great character.
Yeah.
We understand him. He's sympathetic. He's heroic. He's a great character. The head medical officer. I mean, he's kind of lost his marbles by the end of the movie, but we see him. He meets Steve, the EPA investigator, the dad. And he's like, hey, I'm concerned about these people here in the base, and I have people who are really sick, and they're not well, and I don't know what's going on, and I'm trying to take care of these people. And Steve is like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. It's not that. Steve doesn't seem like he gives a shit about that at all. Whereas the medical examiner really cares, right? I mean, he's really putting that forward.
Oh yeah.
In a distinctly military way. So he's speaking in a way that's very precise and technical, but still.
He demonstrates concern for his
Oh,
man.
yeah. But the General Platt, he's an asshole to the EPA investigator, though the EPA investigator is kind of vaguely threatening him. So the EPA investigator comes in and is like, yeah, I'm investigating you, and if you didn't do anything criminal, then you don't have to worry about going to jail. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
There's an implied threat that the general picks up on, but the general is validated. So we do eventually meet the general's wife, who is an alcoholic, and you say, okay, the general has things going on at home, right? It gives him a little bit of sympathy. But additionally, one of the things the general says is, the thing about these chemicals, if they're so dangerous, wouldn't it just be better to leave them where they are? That way they can't do any harm. And the EPA investigator's like, I don't care about that at all. I'm just going to try and get you in trouble, right? That doesn't mean... They basically doesn't even respond to it. Later on in the movie, the pod people are removing the chemicals, and they spill, harming people. The general is validated. He's right. The movie proves him right.
I mean, I do still think that the movie is a little distrustful of the general, just in the same way that it's distrustful of Steve as the quote unquote head of the family, the paterfamilias. Because I do think yes, we like Tim as a character. Tim is clearly sensitive and kind and wants to do the right thing and wants to take care of other people. But being a soldier has harmed him, it's clear that he suffers from what he's had to do as a soldier. So it's interesting I hadn't thought of this movie as pro-military precisely, but it paints a lot more of a nuanced portrait than you would expect.
Yeah, and the EPA investigator is not a particularly sympathetic figure.
Well, he's not
either.
especially competent,
Yeah, I mean,
not like he's
really
bad at his
him...
job, but just he seems kind of passionless and confused and sleepy.
Yeah, he's a little sleepy.
And a little indecisive too. He can't really bring himself to take definitive action.
Yeah, I just find it interesting that the movie, I do think it is. I don't know that I think the movie is distrustful of General Platt, because I don't think he's in it quite enough that it renders a real judgment on him. He's only barely in it, but you just notice it because it's R. Lee Ermey.
Sure.
In his second appearance on this podcast, one of perhaps many, who knows.
There's a good chance.
Yeah, he's great. R.I.P. R. Lee Ermey.
Yeah.
But I do think that's... I like the comment that the movie's making on the military. I'm not anti-military or anything, but when the military gets addressed in movies, a lot of time it's that sort of hoorah, yeah, tough guy. With this movie's not that, and I'm not the sort of person who's necessarily most receptive to that theme. So, but I tend to be excited in a way when a movie is making a comment about. I hate to call the military. It's not politics in this movie so much. Nevertheless, when a movie's putting forward a politics that is not my politics, and yet it does so, it advances its critique or its comment well and defends its position, that does excite me. I don't need it to be my position. I would be... generally speaking, pretty pro EPA.
Yeah, it's what you were saying about
Night of the Comet.
Night of the Comet.
Yeah,
you're not a big Reagan head or anything, but you can appreciate the sort of internal consistency that the movie offers.
Yeah, I don't need a movie to agree with me politically at all. Unless it's doing something I think is really truly malicious or if it's something like that. Yeah, that's one thing. But generally speaking, I'm not looking for that in a product. And if I think the movie is trying to make a positive comment about something I disagree with politically, if the movie's pulling that way, I will help to get it across that finish line. It's not about me. And even despite the fact, or even because of the fact that it's not my politics, it is kind of exciting. Ooh, yeah, that's interesting to me.
Yeah.
So I do find that part fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's also perhaps There's something awfully nihilistic about a movie saying, like, look, you can't trust your family, but you know what you can't trust? The strong arm of the military. You know, like, there's something, like, so bleak about that.
Yeah, but also unexpected, right?
Yeah.
Really, that's the direction we're going here? Yeah. Oh.
And I guess, I mean, there's something really interesting about that when sort of applied to a story like Body Snatchers, because it's like, well, if everything's compromised, then what do? You flatten it. You know, you raise it to the ground. There's such a violence to that, and it's such a sad violence too. Like, it's like, well, you know, if we can't tell A from B, if we can't tell what's real and what's not, then let's just destroy everything. You know, like, oh, gone is the image of the happily reproductive family by the end. And what we have in its place is something just despairing that may or may not even be successful, depending on how you read the ending of the movie.
Sure.
But it's interesting. It's definitely stimulating, you know. Are there other things that you want to say about the family? I know you said you had a lot of thoughts on that. Or should we, like, you know, should we move into, like, the next segment?
No, I have more things to say.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I have lots of good things to say about this
Get in
movie.
there.
So if I need to just hold the floor for a while, that's fine.
Yeah, hold court, and I'll pipe in where I have something interesting to say.
Well, another thing that this movie does that, again, is unexpected, and this is perhaps true for the 50s one. I haven't seen it. In the 70s one, it's definitely not true. But this movie, to me, is actually somewhat sympathetic to the pod people. Which... wow, that's a weird thing to do. Because loss of the self is, to me, like that's something that I find interesting and horrifying in movies. So examples of that, zombie movies, or that a lot of the time. Something like this, obviously, pod people, Stepford Wives would be that. The Thing, you know, the depersonalization that frightens me. So the perpetrators of that, like, I'm gonna have a really hard time feeling anything toward them, right? That's like the worst. It's maybe the worst thing, like, horror subject to me. Like
Sure.
Anybody who's inflicting that on people is gonna get more ire from me than, like, I don't know,
just a psycho
slasher
killer
villain or something.
Sure.
Yeah, you can feel more for them.
A man who makes you drink eels. You know.
Right, sure. Yeah, he's fine. No problem with him. Anyway, so there is a latent sympathy for the pod people here. So what you get when you see them in the pod, so there's a big sequence where Marty has fallen asleep in the bathtub, and a pod is stashed away in the drop panel ceiling in the bathroom. So it's up there, which eventually it collapses as the pod defies physics and the laws of conservation of mass, because it gets heavier as a body grows inside of it. That we don't need to worry about. That's not what matters.
This has been Nick's Physics Corner.
Right. Anyway, so it's forming in the pod. It looks like a fetus.
Yeah.
And it's a big human-sized fetus, but, like, it looks like a baby looks. As opposed to the 70s one where they look like horrifying,
ropey,
grotesque,
Audrey 2 tentacles.
But it looks fetal in a way that evokes sympathies, I think. Later on, you see Tim interacting with the pod person of his former buddy. And Tim says, we're all one big happy family now. And the pod person says, what's happy? And there's a genuine puzzlement to it. Like, he doesn't know he doesn't understand that anymore. So Tim rescues Marty from the infirmary where they're they're sedating the last few humans and forcing them to turn into pod people. And so her replacement is born It's not fully separated yet from Marty. So like Marty's just barely alive, and the pod person is conscious and able to speak.
This is like 30 seconds later.
Yeah.
Marty's dust.
Yeah, she's toast. So it's like the act now or say goodbye forever. And she begs for her life.
Yeah.
She's like, don't kill me. Like I want to.
Oh, she
I want to
says
live.
like, please don't.
Please don't kill me.
Don't.
Yeah. And she's nude. So she appears vulnerable. Like that implies a certain amount of vulnerability, and furthermore, lots of the pod people, they have this subtle undercurrent in the way that they speak. It's especially true of Pod Carol. There's this contempt, or at least condescension, I think really is exciting to listen to. There's this condescension in the way that they speak. But that does imply that there is emotional capacity there in whatever form that is. They're not just robots. So when a robot dies, like, oh, robot's dead, doesn't matter. It's a robot. It's an unfeeling thing. Whereas they have at least that sort of, if not sneering contempt, then there's condescension there. It's like, I know better than you-ness. Like a parentalness, perhaps. You're the rebellious child and we're the parents, right? There's that element to them.
And you'll come around to my way of thinking.
Yeah. But because they have that much emotional capacity, they're not robots anymore. So even though they're displaying malicious intentions, it does, in an interesting way, make them more sympathetic.
I mean, they don't they say at some point literally like, this is for your own good, or something to that effect.
I don't know if they say that directly.
I can't remember, but that's clearly sort of the implication. Like, you don't know what you're doing. Just take your medicine, shut up, and take your nap or whatever. There's something really, there's something very intriguing about that. So
at the end, movie's end, Tim is firing missiles at them, and you see them like burning. I mean, you see some of them, like there are children in that scene who are like dying, and so you see people like curled up in the fetal position, and they're just sort of burning away. And meanwhile, you have Marty speaking, "I hate them. I want them to die." And it's like, oh gosh, this doesn't seems kind of bad. And the only people who use firearms in the movie, humans. They never do. Pod people never do. Yeah, they never do. So they're not violent, so they're a little more anyway. So they're richly drawn. So to the extent like, I mean, you're never rooting for them. You're never like, I'm not even sure you go quite so far as to say that the pod people have a point. But like watching human beings resist the pod people is just essentially watching them debase themselves, like whether it's Major Collins, who loses his mind and then takes his own life, or watching these characters that we like become violent, distrust one another. I mean, it's sad. It feels like, oh geez, like, what a beautiful prize you've won, that you get to remain as you are now, traumatized, paranoid, and sickened by your own actions. It's really like emotionally rich. Yeah. And I will further say this whole movie is thematically so rich. I think it's so interesting what they're saying about conformity. I mean, if you take the humans versus the pod people, I mean, the way that these themes sort of leverage themselves against one another. In the case of the pod people, you have conformity versus independence. On the other hand, with the humans, unhappiness versus happiness, removal of emotion versus its suppression, dispassion versus hate, survival versus self-destruction, continuation of the body versus death of the soul. But all of these things are complicated because it's not like the humans are happy. They're conforming. They're removing their emotions. I mean, there's so much, like the Venn diagrams, like between these groups. intersect and then pull back. I mean, it's such an interesting movie that seems almost to be saying that humans they just validate their existence by suffering. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Something I was kind of amusing myself thinking about in preparation for this episode is like, I feel like recently we've seen a lot of movies that think they're kind of smart, that are dumb as hell. Whereas something like
A Cure for Wellness is dumb as shit.
It's dumb. Or like Hannibal, a big floppy dumbness, just a mass of dumbness.
Yeah, Hannibal is a.
It's not that it's 100%.
That movie's not dumb as that's a dumb as shit movie written by smart people.
Yes, yeah.
Whereas A Cure for Wellness might be written by dumb people.
No comment.
Yeah, I don't know that. This citation needed.
We've seen a lot of pretension recently, I think, or a lot of just glee, if that makes any sense. But this movie's so stripped down, so quiet. It felt good to watch a really intelligent movie, and I feel like I'm betraying my own pretentiousness right now, but something that's so thoughtful. Like, what was the last really smart movie that we watched for this pod?
For the podcast?
Yeah.
Leprechaun. So smart.
I'm so sad that Mark Jones is dead, because now he can't give us any really smart movies
anymore. I'm so sad to have killed him, which we allegedly did.
To have allegedly cursed and destroyed him. Well,
better luck next time, Mark Jones.
That's right. Honestly, I feel like maybe it was Ghost Story. Maybe that was the last thinker that we watched. Yeah. Or maybe Vampire. Well, I guess Vampires was before Ghost Story. So, yeah, it stands. Oh my goodness. Well, have you? I've
had my moment. I think it's time to get into what's not working.
I'm trying to think.
I love this movie, so it pains me to criticize it, but that's the endeavor.
Yeah, you can only filibuster for so long.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of that word for a long time. Yeah, let's talk about what's not working. And I think this is going to be a much gentler conversation than previous episodes.
Yeah. So, this is going to be. I don't have that much to say here, but that's the thing. Like, I think this movie's really great, but I do think it has a couple problems, and I would like to help it get out of its own way as best as I can, and really bring a couple things forward. But I would like you to take the lead on this one, if you don't mind, because I've been pretty effusive in my praise so far.
Yeah, well, as you should be. This is a really good one. I think. So we've talked so much about the toitness of this movie, how it's jam-packed, but also quick. It's very quick, because I think it trusts its audience enough to assume that they will understand what's going on. And I said at the beginning, I think 99% of the time that works to its benefit. But I do find myself wishing we had more time to spend with certain characters and certain performers. You've got R. Lee Ermey in your movie. I want to see him doing more stuff. You've got Christina Lees, who we haven't even talked about yet. I really like her.
Christina Lees, famous
from the Child's Play
series. Yeah. But to horror fans, they would know her from Chucky 2 and or Child's Play 2, rather. Excuse me.
Yeah, yes, the movie is brisk and it really skips along. But I do wish we had just a little bit more time before everything popped off, just so we get to see these great actors acting together more. To me, that is the biggest problem here. And it's just the thing of it's over too soon. I want to spend more time here. Because I think they're doing so much. That I'm like, if you allowed yourself 15 more minutes or something, 10 more minutes, what could you do, and I don't know, maybe I would completely change my mind if I saw like a longer cut or something, but that was really on my mind. Like, God, this movie ends fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you almost completely. So the only extent to which I disagree with that is I don't think it needs 10 minutes or 15 or anything. I think it needs like 3 minutes.
Sure.
So I do think it needs to be longer. And I think probably we want to solve some of the same problems. So one of the things you said is R. Lee Ermey is in your movie. You want to use them more. Mm-hmm. I had the same thought. Like, I think we need more of him in this movie. Not very much. Again, I want to add like 3 minutes to this movie.
Sure.
But brevity I think is a real asset to this movie. But in my revision, I did something I don't necessarily do as much. A lot of the time, I'm moving pieces around and adding some things. But this, I've just wrote whole new scenes. Like
I did too.
Yeah,
I did too. And like it is rare for me to say that a movie is like too heavy-handed with the scalpel. Mm-hmm. Usually, I find, at least recently, the movies we've been watching have been much too self-indulgent. I mean, well, and like, God, what could be further from A Cure for Wellness, which like is so redundant and repetitive and like just like can't decide which of its 10 endings it wants to be the definitive one, all that stuff. This movie is like so like it's corseted, it's sucked in, it's hollowed out, not to say that it's hollow, but just that it's like it's so whittled. And yeah, I want a little more fat just for texture.
Yeah, so that's my problem. So again, when we started this episode, we were talking about having watched it and liking it, and then on a rewatch saying, oh wow, this is actually really good. Mm-hmm. That was at least my experience. Like, I really, really came around on it. I liked it then, but when I saw this, like, okay, what I thought this movie's going to be some comment on the military and conformity. Like, what is this movie? So you're setting on a military base. What are you getting? There's going to be a lot of paranoia about the chain of command and orders. Hey, you can't order that. Well, I'm your officer. Get in line, soldier. Yeah, these kinds of things, right? Which I was in for. I'm like, okay, sure, let's do it. And I watched it, and it wasn't really that. And but that's such a behemoth of a thing. You go into that like, okay, Invasion of the Body Snatchers on the military base. I know what that movie is. And so you come into it. When that movie's not that, you spend the whole movie looking for that. Sure. Because it's such a big, obvious direction for this movie to go. So what I like about this movie, one of the many things I like about this movie, is how subtle it is, but I think it's a touch too far. I think it's just a touch too subtle, because what I think the more interesting comment is against the family here. Like, that's really the unit of conformity that is being critiqued. But I don't think almost anyone's going to catch that on an initial viewing. Which, not that you need to understand everything about a movie on an initial viewing. I think rewatching and gathering more things. I mean, you can only take in so much information in one go, right?
Yeah, but
I want to watch a movie and understand what it's going for.
And that deep guttural understanding, like you should feel what the movie is about, even if you can't sort of think through what the movie is.
So the way that the family dynamic is portrayed is so delicate and so subtle, and the more obvious direction for this movie to go is so fucking obvious that it's a problem for us. So I think that an efficient use of the time we have, because again, I think this movie's 87 minutes. I mean, you can go past a tight 90 if you want to, but we're sub 90 at this point. You have time to actually add material. It's in your budget for sure. So if you spend more time with the family, I think that meaning can come across a little more neatly.
I agree. No, I completely agree. Yeah, absolutely. I think we just, Because again, like, you have demonstrated what you can do with so little time. Like, imagine if you just gave yourself just a kiss more, you know? Oh, there was something else I wanted to say in relation to that. Now I can't remember what it was. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's what it was. So I was going to say, like, because for you, the second time you watched it, what did you bump up, like, a whole star, your rating?
I'm maybe
Half a star, a whole star? I can't remember.
Yeah, maybe.
But it was roughly a 3 to roughly a 4.
Yeah.
Something like that. Maybe 3.5 to 4. But that's, that's significant.
This is close to a 4.5 to me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's a high 4 for sure.
Yeah. Maybe like a 4.25 or something. Yeah. Well, and like, I think I wouldn't notice the thinness, the over brevity, if I can't think of a term for it, but if the voiceover weren't there, I think that would help, because it's like your performances are giving me so much.
Yeah.
Just like, don't get scared at the last second. If you wanted to have some kind of like, just something that's like there to create mood and atmosphere rather than deliver much information, that would be one thing. And I think it kind of halfway does that, but it can't quite resist the temptation to like exposit just the tiniest bit. And I'm like, no, stand firm. If you're going to be 87, 88 minutes, trust yourself, So it's like that little lack of faith in that one moment makes me question and makes me want more. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I was checking that out pretty closely, actually, because when you have voiceover, that introduces some problems. So there's a couple elements to it. I mean, that's best avoided usually, unless, I mean, it's the kind of movie where you have constant narration coming in and out of the story. I mean, that can work if it's a deliberate choice, but here it feels way out of place. And then you kind of forget about the opening voiceover, and then at the end of the movie it comes back. I'm like, oh yeah, that. Oh. Yeah. So that's part of the problem. But when you have, I have a few issues with it. As far as voiceover goes, I don't think this is bad for voiceover. I will say that.
It's no Harrison Ford in Blade Runner.
No, well, no.
Nothing's
like
bad.
that. But anyway, yeah, for the context for people who don't know this, in the original cut of Blade Runner, Harrison Ford was forced to record voiceover, which he deliberately sabotaged. He thought so he's like, I'm going to do a really bad job of it, and I'll force because so they won't use it. And the studio made him basically put it in there anyway, so it sounds really bad. Which, yeah, that was a gambit that didn't pay off. Anyway, now there's 18 cuts of Blade Runner for your viewing displeasure. So the first thing in the voiceover that happens is she's saying, "Oh, sometimes things happen for a reason, even if you don't understand the reason." Which that's all gibberish. I'm like, okay, I don't know what any of that shit's about. But then she does, at least pretty efficiently, like, "Oh, I'm riding with my family, and he's an EPA agent. He's checking out military bases." Like, the premise of the movie is pretty much spat out in the first 10 seconds. Like, okay, well, at least I got it. So I appreciate it for that, at least, though I did waver. I'm like, do I want to cut this or not? In my revision, I wasn't sure. I'm like, but I did ultimately wind up doing that. One of the other reasons that you want to get rid of narration, or potentially want to, so the movie ends in an ambiguous place. Like, okay, have the pod people escaped? Is it just Pod Carol, when she reveals herself to the family, she says, honestly or not, that there are pod people everywhere. That, like, what's happening in the military base is happening all over the, I don't know, state, nation, world. So that the prospects for humanity are basically, like, humanity's over. So there's nowhere to escape to because everyone's a pod person. So it's just over. Just give up. So we reach the end of the movie. So she starts narrating again. But when you're doing voiceover like this, and the way that it's framed, she's like looking back on what has happened. Like, oh, the pod people, I went through this horrible experience at the military base, and I'm just thinking about what a horrible time we had. Like, okay, so this implies that she survived. That's the issue, or that's a big part of the problem. So where in time is she? So she's recording a voiceover. She's not literally speaking into a microphone in the way that I am, but in the artifice of the movie, what this means is she survived the events of the movie and is somewhere in the future looking back on the events of the movie. Mm-hmm. So when does that moment happen? Because we come back to the voiceover where she is taking glee in the fact that the pod people are being missiled. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, is that the version of Marty that's giving the voiceover at the beginning of the movie?
Yeah.
Or did Marty survive beyond the credits scrolling and she is somewhere in an unknown future looking back, giving us our framing device?
Yeah.
I don't know, but the movie's trying to end in a place of ambiguity. Like, has the world ended or has it not? Well, if Marty is beyond when the credits have scrolled, looking back on the events of the movie and saying, oh, I remember that time the pod people came in. Oh, it was really terrible. I'm telling you, grandson, like then that's a problem for us, right? So you've just killed your ambiguous ending. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's not great.
Yeah. It's, again, it feels like, I don't know. I can't tell if this is like a studio note or if this is just like a sort of writerly anxiety towards the very end. I don't want it, like it's, it could be more offensive than it is. I'm just,
I did waver on it. I wasn't totally sure I was going to get rid of it. So yeah, it's not the most offensive mistake, but still. Anything else?
I'm trying to think if there was anything else I wanted to talk about. Okay, I didn't love that they showed Gabrielle Anwar's boobs. I mean, I think she was not a minor at the time of filming.
Yeah, she's in her early 20s. She's like 23.
But this movie was kind of put on a shelf for a couple of years, I think. I think I read that in the trivia on IMDb. So I'm like, hopefully she wasn't a minor. She probably wasn't if they did, because they didn't use a body double.
No, I read about that because Meg Tilly's only like 13 years older than she is.
Yeah. I just like, they're so explicit that she's underage, and I was like, ugh.
Yeah, that's always a weird thing to do because
and
you
have like, I don't think the point is to be pervy and gross.
No,
not at all.
No, I think it's meant to make her look vulnerable.
Yeah. She looks very delicate in that moment, and fragile, and the image is quite striking. But I was just like, like we avoided seeing her breasts when she was in the bathtub, and then
I remember being surprised by that. So you have a bathtub scene, and you don't see it, and
you don't see a thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, why not then and why now? I mean, again, I do think the movie was making an artistic choice. I just was like, but I get it. I know why it happens. I don't think anyone was being like a, lecherous creep or anything. I'm just
it's always a little funky though, but when you have a character so the actress is definitely not a minor, but she's playing a minor, and just seen as new.
Yeah, I'm like, was there a way to do it to communicate the same vulnerability without showing, the breasts? And again, like art can have, obviously there's artistic nudity. I'm not like, I'm not a person who would put like sticky notes on a statue or something. It's just,
right.
When it's living flesh and blood, when it's a real person.
It's like the sticky note in Hannibal.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, when Ray Liotta looks at he's like, oh, let me look at those titties. Like underneath the sticky note.
Oh my God.
Because that's what that movie, that's a sophisticated comment on feminism.
That's so hilarious.
People are so lecherous, like, oh, peel back this sticky note.
Let me look at some painted nipples or some charcoal nipples. Yeah. Yeah, but I was just like, is it necessary? Is it essential? And I honestly don't really know the answer to that. Maybe someone would say, well, yeah, like, yes, it is. She's been sort of denuded or I don't know.
Abel Ferrara apparently has that's a little bit of a trademark of his.
Man.
So not on her. I don't mean that. I just mean like uncomfortable nudity.
Sure.
A movie. I'm not sure. It may have been the movie around the same time, but maybe the movie that came out just before this, like his last movie before this one. But he did a movie called Bad Lieutenant. Starring Harvey Keitel, and Harvey Keitel dances around buck-ass naked in that movie. So you get like full dong, supposedly.
Full.
Which I only know that because I watched Conan O'Brien's interview with Abel Ferrara, which is famously Conan O'Brien's worst interview, because Abel Ferrara got scared and he fled the set in the middle of taping. Before his interview, they fled the set before taping. So like he's up doing his monologue and he takes off. They had to send a producer out to go like bop him over the head and
carry him back like a sack of potatoes.
So that was one of the things they talk about in the interview. Watch the interview. Search Conan O'Brien interviewing Abel Ferrara, and it's a delightful disaster. Good stuff. Anyway, so I think that's a bit of a trademark of his.
That's so funny.
Uncomfortable nudity.
I'm still laughing at that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. So that's like, take that as my sort of slightly ambivalent critique. Sure. Where like, I'm not a thoughtless censor or anything. Yeah. It just, I was like,
you want to Balderize our movie? That's fine.
I'm trying to think if there's anything like of substance that I want to say.
I have a couple small things if I need to stall for you to find anything.
Let me think.
There's a false setup and payoff. I like a good setup and payoff, right? So everything to do with Tim's ability to conceal his emotions is great. I talked about that quite a lot. There's a false one. General Platt's an insomniac. His daughter mentions that because his wife's an alcoholic. No wonder my dad never can get any sleep. Which in a movie that's about people sleeping and then while they sleep, pod people take them over and replace them. That's an important note. Like, okay, we got a comment about sleep. That's going to matter. It doesn't. So I wonder if that was... When you have a dangling line like that, that's typically... okay, that was part of a script draft that, like, okay, we're going to cut this character's role somewhat. And you just have these little lingering threads. But that's an opportunity for expansion. A halfway setup thing, the chemicals, I thought they were going to wind up having more bearing on the story.
Yeah. And it's like, I guess it's just a red herring, though there is something in the water. The pods are in the water.
Right.
So that's slightly mystifying to me. Like, okay, like, do they not leave any residue in the water? I mean, is it just not detectable with the technology that Daddy Steve has? I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not gonna crucify this movie for that or anything, but just little questions, little things.
Another one, Andy. So he has a moment again, really early in the movie. He's at daycare. It's his first day in daycare, and everybody's painting. They're doing finger painting, and like, oh, the teacher says, "Hey, kids, all right, you've done your finger painting. Lift up show everyone your art." And all the kids have drawn the same horrible mess of red tentacles. Like, oh god, all of the kids, especially like anything to do with children and horror. That a lot of the time we just pretend that nothing happens to the children. That's an uncomfortable thing for a lot of people. But no, all of the children are pod people except for Andy, right? That's great because early on, like, okay, it really shows like this infestation is really taking root here. It's got all of the children in the daycare. It's
taking root in the most vulnerable population.
Yeah. So it shows we're really into this crisis, right? So it's great for showing the progression, like how far in we are. But additionally, it sort of goes for the jugular because it's to do with the children. Yeah, it's great stuff.
Like the human body, the human. Not duplicate, but you know what I mean, dies horribly, like turning to
collapsing
powder.
in on itself and turning into dust. and then discarded in the trash.
Oh.
Yeah, they get taken to the dump.
Yeah, it's so unsentimental.
Yeah. However, Andy holds up his painting, and Andy's painting is also a horror show. It looks like some nightmarish shit too. And instead, I think what they're maybe going for Andy trying to fit in with the other kids, and he's made something that's kind of like, oh, I see what you're doing, little Susie. I'm gonna try and do something like that. Maybe that was the thinking, perhaps. I'm not sure that I think that works. I don't think that's ultimately beneficial. I think
it's a little muddy.
Well, it's muddy because I see that again on my first viewing, because that's what I'm really trying to critique the first viewing of the movie, like trying to help it be a little more understood.
Impact.
Yeah,
the first
right.
time.
So when I first saw that, I can remember seeing that and thinking, oh, this is interesting. So this is the movie's new angle. The body snatchers infection. It's not a change where you just get turned into a pod person, like your body dies and a pod person takes your place. There's some kind of a gradual transformation. So all the other kids, they've been here for a while and they've turned into pod people, but he's only been here one night. And so he's drawn this horrible, like nightmarish scene, but it's not like the others, not quite. But he's looking at it, he doesn't understand what's happening to him or what's going on. I'm thinking that's what this is. So anyway, have him draw some kittens or something like this.
Right.
this,
or have him draw forms that aren't abstract.
You're right. Yeah, have it not also be horrifying, just in a different way.
There's something about the mixture of like that red and green finger paint that's like really grotesque looking on the paper. Yeah, that could have been, I think, telegraphed just a touch.
Yeah, that there was a little bit of a loss of clarity there.
Yeah. Oh, I was thinking in terms of other characters I wish we could see a little bit more of. I would love to see Forrest Whitaker's character like one more time, because the first time we see him, he's calm, cool, collected, military guy, with it.
Yeah.
And then the second time, he is full tilt, losing his mind.
Yeah, he's nuts. Yeah, he's pounding caffeine pills. He's got a pot of coffee on his desk too. He's like drinking out of. It's great.
And I wish, I do just wish, like, like follow the rule of threes. Show us the middle point. Let us see him one other time so we can see like, oh, he's cracking and then he's cracked, just because I think like that's a big ask for the actor to have to present as like a fully ordinary functional member of his community, and then to have him be like kind of full on unhinged. I just wanted I wanted Forrest Whitaker to have a little bit more to do there.
Sure.
I think I understand why it's like that, just because they're showing at that point like how all hell has broken loose. But that doesn't quite work for me because the performance feels so big compared to where we started.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's Forrest Whitaker's fault. He's a fine actor. It's just the kind of what the script necessitates because it is so tight. I'm trying to think if there's anything else, but I feel like we've mostly talked about all that I want to.
Yeah, my only other little minor critique was Pod Steve tells Marty how to fool the pod people.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm a pod person, but I'm going to tell you the secret to defeat the pod people. Why'd he do that?
I mean, I guess maybe he thought he could get away with it because he would just immediately deliver her to be sedated or something, like to the infirmary or something like that.
Maybe.
But yeah, I don't know. Oh, did you just bop the mic?
I did.
How could you?
Oh, well.
Is this the first time? It might be our first mic bop.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny.
We'll be all right.
You're a pod person, aren't you?
That's me.
The real Nick would never have done that.
Yeah, well, in any case, I feel like I'm ready to get into the revision.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, I'm going to go take a nap, and then something will be back with my revision.
I'm going to go swill some vodka until I pass out, and then I'll be back with my revision. Okay, so I'm gonna go first. And I'm gonna give one of my famous caveats. You may hate what I've done here.
Oh, great.
I honestly.
Yeah, you were really receptive last time when.
No, and I think honestly it would be fair if you didn't like the version of the movie that I create, because
Okay.
I sort of not repurpose, but like I reimagine some of the principal characters here. And I think I take things in a slightly different direction than like some of the original themes that the movie explores. Maybe I'm talking it up too much. Maybe it'll be fine. Maybe you'll love it. I don't know.
Maybe.
But I think, well, we'll just have to see.
Okay, great.
I like it. But
I'm sure this is going to go great.
I will say, like, as I was doing it, I felt vaguely sacrilegious, but I was having a good time. So this is just like me kind of reimagining, like, what could this have been if like the trajectory, if the launch path was like 1% tilted to the right.
Okay.
So I'm probably like, this is probably just overburdening my whole thing, but I'll get started.
Okay. All right. Let's do it.
All right. The movie opens on a station wagon moving through the Alabama countryside. Marty, a 17-year-old girl, reads Jean-Paul Sartre's play, No Exit, in the back seat of the car as her family chatters happily around her. So that's the only detail of the opening that's really changed, just kind of like focusing on her reading a different text. And, who knows? Maybe that'll come back later.
I looked up the book that she's actually reading.
I did too, and I can't now remember what it was.
Me neither. I can't. Ian McEwan was the writer, I think. But
right.
that had a movie that had its own movie adaptation coming out the same year.
Oh,
as
that's
this
funny.
Movie did.
That's
so I wondered if
funny.
it was from the same studio, but
Oh,
I
maybe
didn't
so.
check. I wondered if it was something like that.
That would be amusing.
Yeah.
Anyway, they get. Oh, I just thought of another thing I was going to say. I'll save it for later. I'll save it for later.
All right.
But they have the inciting incident where Marty is accosted in the bathroom at the gas station. And then, she's given the same warning. They arrive at the base, etc.
No voiceover?
No voiceover.
Okay.
We're fuck that, right? We're
Right.
not doing it. Steve and his family move into their new home on the base, though Marty is frustrated to learn that she must share a room with the young Andy. In the midst of taking a walk and running afoul of some patrolling soldiers who warn Marty that she is in a restricted area, Marty's collected by a young woman named Tanya with close-cropped hair and a punk rock outfit. As the young women drive away, a soldier picks up a discarded denture from the ground. Tanya drives Marty around the base, showing her the ropes and pointing out what little nightlife the base has to offer. The two trade jokes about how stiff and robotic all the soldiers look. Tanya's confident and a little aloof, and Marty instantly takes to the slightly older girl. Marty reveals how much she dislikes the base, and how much she resents her father for moving them there, even if only for a month. Tanya takes Marty back home before speeding off into the evening, and Marty stares after her taillights until her family retrieves her from the yard. So, you'll notice, Jen is not Jen anymore.
She's Tanya.
Jen is Tanya. You will see why very shortly.
Okay.
Okay. So, next tiny little bit is the same, where the agitated soldier is like picked up and taken away. Everyone's kind of watching as it happens, staring out the window. And then the next morning, as Steve is leaving to conduct tests on the local water, Marty and Carol share a tense exchange when Carol asks Marty to drop Andy off at daycare. Marty, in a foul mood, tells Carol to do it herself, and when Carol remarks that she should take better care of her little brother, Marty gripes that she wouldn't have to deal with Andy in the first place if not for her father's remarriage. Andy starts to cry, and Steve yells at Marty, who slinks out the door, embarrassed and confused by her own sullenness. Carol asks Steve if he plans to deal with his spiky daughter anytime soon, and he promises to talk to her after work. So I've slightly moved things around a little bit, and I wanted to have a little bit more interaction between Marty and Carol, which we don't really get. And again, I don't think that's a flaw of the movie that we don't see a lot of them interacting in the original version. I just wanted to explore that relationship a little bit more. Okay, so Steve leaves. That's all the same. He has the meeting with Major Collins, who's like, hey, could this have any like psychotropic effects, etc. Then on her walk, Marty goes looking for Tanya, but realizing she has no idea where to find the other girl, she returns home, waiting to go inside until Carol leaves to drop off Andy at daycare and do some grocery shopping. Contrite, Marty unpacks some of the boxes she neglected the day before. So while Carol is still out, the soldiers deliver the equipment / the pod into the family bedroom. Then when Carol arrives home from shopping, she sees the work that Marty has done to help move in and sighs. Calling Marty down from her room, Carol reveals that she feels frustrated by the cycle they seem to be trapped in. Marty picks a fight with her and then tries to make up for it later without acknowledging the hurt. Carol asks Marty, isn't she tired of being stuck like this? But Marty takes her coaxing as criticism and clams up. Thwarted, Carol says that Marty's father wants to have a talk with her when he gets home. Noticing the boxes of scientific equipment, Carol asks where they came from, but Marty has already snuck back into the safety of her bedroom. Let's see. On his first day in daycare, Andy is disturbed when all the children except for him create the same finger painting, a frightening, if somewhat abstract, mass of tentacles. He runs away from the daycare, but is quickly picked up and brought home by Tanya, now dressed in soldier's fatigues. Marty answers the door and collects Andy. She's dismayed to see that Tanya's actually a soldier. Tanya grimaces and says she didn't mean to mislead her. She was in civilian clothes because she was off for the day. She tells Marty she will finish her rotation in a few hours and asks if Marty will give her the chance to explain herself then. Marty reluctantly agrees. Carol sees this interaction from a doorway. Though she notices the intense atmosphere between the two young women, she says nothing and leaves them be. When Steve returns home, he is surprised at how quickly the house is coming together. Hoping he will be more mollified by the gesture than Carol was, Marty asks then to spend time with Tanya that night, which Steve immediately denies. Marty sulks, though she is not exactly surprised at this outcome. She mopes around the house, conspicuously rereading No Exit, until a frazzled Steve grows frustrated and says that she's not particularly good at giving new things a chance. Marty snaps back that she's never had any say in her own life before, and how could she love something that was forced on her, clearly also referring to Carol. So, pause here and just kind of talk about some of the changes. I have condensed the Jen and the Tim characters into one. I
see that, yeah.
Hence the name Tanya, which was meant to be sort of a unification.
A Tim and Jen, right?
Yeah. And this is nothing at all against, what is the actor's name who plays Tim? Something Worth.
Billy Worth.
Billy Worth. I love his performance. I think he gives a fabulous performance in this movie. I also really like Christina Elise in this movie as well.
Cut them both.
I don't know who plays Tanya. You know, maybe it's Christina Elise, maybe it's not.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Oh. That's the first name that came to my mind.
Interesting. That's a very different energy. But yeah, I wanted to see more done with the Jen character because I think she's positioned in such an interesting way in the movie. And also I wanted to do more with Tim's concealed feelings. So we'll see how that plays out. Again, Are we headed toward a sapphic romance? It's possible that we're headed toward a sapphic romance. But again, no shade to either of these actors. I love both of them in the roles that they have. I wanted to see if I could do something more. Okay. Also, I think my Marty is a little bit brattier, and we'll see what that brings to bear. Okay. Carol, tired from the Alabama heat, lies down to take a nap. Steve lies down with her, but he's restless, remembering that he still needs to transcribe his notes on the day's samples. He promises Carol he will join her later and tells her to go ahead and rest. As Steve leaves the room, Carol calls him back and quietly convinces him to let Marty go spend time with her new friend, saying that perhaps a little leeway is warranted with Marty this time around. Surprised, Steve tells Marty she can go out, then returns to work at the lab. A little mystified, Marty gets ready, clearly nervous and excited about spending more time with Tanya. Tanya picks Marty up, taking them to the nicest house on the entire base. She apologizes once more for not revealing that she was actually a soldier, and says that the whole truth is even worse than that. She is actually the base commander's daughter. Further surprised, Marty asks whether Tanya is an officer, but Tanya shakes her head, explaining that she didn't want to take the fast track that her father's high status would permit. Rather, she has worked her way up to becoming a helicopter pilot. Let's see. The same thing happens where Tanya, quote unquote, introduces Marty to her mom, who's still passed out on the couch. The two young women make their way upstairs into Tanya's room, where they sit and talk. Tanya talks about how frustrating it is to be the princess of the base, and how hard she has worked to distinguish herself from her father. Flying, though, makes it all worth it. In turn, Marty tells Tanya that her real mother died when she was 7, as well as explaining more about her tense family dynamic. Marty then paraphrases No Exit, saying that, quote, hell is other people. Tanya smiles and says, sometimes. Tanya asks Marty if she'd like to get out of the stuffy old house and invites her to the bar at the outskirts of the base. They head to the bar, joining a few of Tanya's soldier friends who are already there. As Marty and Tanya share a flirtatious game of pool, military police show up and collect a drunken soldier who is passed out at the bar. To Marty's surprise and horror, one of the MPs is the same man who accosted her at the gas station on the way into town, though she second-guesses herself when he doesn't react to her. Tanya and Marty ditch the bar and go for a walk by the creek, where they play a game of, what is it, I Never?
Yeah, I think it's I Never.
I'm just going to say Never Have I Ever,
yeah, it's
because
never
that's
have I ever.
unnatural and psychotic. The game turns serious when Tanya gets Marty to confess that she secretly knows Carol's not a bad person, and that she wishes she could permit herself to let go and love her. Marty, in turn, gets Tanya to flatly admit that she killed someone in Kuwait. Furthermore, Tanya confesses that she hides her feelings. The two then kiss passionately, unaware that nearby a group of soldiers are picking giant pods from the river running by the base. Ding, 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 we've got our sapphic romance. I just thought, if you're going to talk about the military concealing of feelings, don't ask, don't tell, was becoming such a major point of frustration with queer soldiers at this point. I kind of was like, ooh, this could be kind of fun, this could be interesting. Anyway, the next little bits are the same. Carol's body succumbs to her pod person. The naked double emerges from the closet, scaring Andy, etc. Steve gets angry when Tanya and Marty come home drunk. Let's see. Everyone's distracted, away from Andy being like, my mother is dead. And Carol, or rather Pod Carol, disposes of Carol's remains. So we pick up at the next scene. At the lab, Steve witnesses an accidental injury from a chemical spill on a soldier, though the injury appears inhuman, as does the reaction of the onlookers and the injured party. Marty wanders back to Tanya's home, and Tanya's mother answers the door. Tanya is disturbed by her mother's behavior. Normal for some, but distinctly unusual for her, made all the more puzzling by the fact that her usual glass of vodka is instead filled with nothing but water. Tanya tells Marty she'd better go, as now doesn't seem to be a good time. Feeling rejected, Marty snipes that Sartre was right after all. Tanya shows her out, saying sadly, "No, Marty, I don't think that's true after all." Meanwhile, Steve takes a sample from the injured soldier's suit and speaks to a friend over the phone about examining the results, which baffle him. In the middle of Steve's investigations, he's startled to see Major Collins step out of the shadows. Collins no longer seems to be the cool and collected man from the day before. Now he is nervous, chain-smoking his way through their brief interview. Collins asks Steve if there could be a local contaminant that is so far gone undetected that's making the residents of the base undergo such pronounced psychological changes. He asks suddenly for a sample of Steve's blood to compare to the samples he's taken from his paranoid patients, but Steve nervously declines. An agitated Collins leaves as suddenly as he arrived. After Marty returns home, Pod Carroll stops her, her manner now eerily chilly. She asks Marty whether she had a fight with her new friend. Something in Carol's tone makes Marty uneasy. She asks her what she means, and Carol exclaims that Tanya must really have hurt her, or rather have hurt her feelings, if Marty isn't even snapping at her. She gently strokes Marty's hair, seemingly thoughtful, and says, "Life would be so much simpler if you could only accept who you really are." Marty is further disturbed by this, and Carol suggests that Marty rest for a while, that she'll feel better if she just takes a nap. Confused, Marty decides instead to take a long bath. So the next part is the same, as Marty is bathing and as her pod person is forming. Carol also coaxes Steve to come back and take that nap that he never took with her the day before. And simultaneously, their pod people are forming, though unsuccessfully. Pod Carol gives the same monologue. The family escape. And then, let's see... Tanya, across the base, awakens to the resulting cacophony of screams and gunfire. But her mother's new bridge club, with her mother in tow, corner her and attempt to dose her with tranquilizer to force her to sleep. Tanya outmaneuvers the women and her mother and flees on foot. The next thing is the same. The final interaction between Steve and Major Collins, Marty and Andy hiding in the warehouse, all that good stuff. Okay. Steve returns to his children and says he's found a way out. They drive aimlessly through the military base as the chaos on the base reaches its nadir. Steve explains to Marty that if you don't show any emotion, the pod people can be fooled. Through careful study of his mannerisms and way of speaking, Marty realizes that her father may have been replicated while he was away, pulling the car's emergency brake as she tries to escape. Tanya discovers the group and points her gun at Steve, though she doesn't yet understand what is taking place. Marty takes Tanya's gun and shoots Steve, who is tragically revealed to have been himself all along. A horrified Marty grows hysterical, but Tanya tells her not to cry, not to look, but rather to go to a distant, frozen place, deep, deep underground, hiding Marty's eyes until she calms down enough to try and escape the base. So another big change here. I wanted to have that sort of human, brutal moment of, Marty not being able to trust her father enough that she kills him. And for that kind of note of emotional suppression to come back, right? Like in this instance, Tanya is able to help, Marty kind of clamp down on her emotions because of her soldier training. All right, we're nearly to the end. Tanya, Marty, and Andy head toward the airfield. Marty shares Pod Steve's advice to act like one of them with Tanya, who, using her flat affect and practiced method of hiding her emotions, tricks her own father, General Platt, who patrols the base, directing the pod people's actions. Platt orders Tanya to scout for escaping survivors in her helicopter, and she pretends to comply. She lifts off in the copter, but before she's able to collect Marty and Andy, they are captured by pod people. She follows in her chopper as the duo are dropped off at an infirmary. Landing, she enters the infirmary incognito and keeps her emotions in check as she sees a number of people's bodies crumbling into dust as their duplicates rise to take their place. Capitalizing on a still human soldier's escape attempt, Tanya uses the duplicate's distraction to free Marty, who is well encompassed by tentacles and nearly dead. Tanya and Marty walk out of the infirmary, though Marty says she won't leave without Andy, who's so far unseen. The duo watch as General Platt directs a convoy of military vehicles to various bases across the United States. Marty is then approached by some of Tanya's soldier buddies from the bar. As Marty walks away, they mention that they saw Andy and that he is looking for her. When Marty reacts, Tanya's friends point and scream, revealing themselves to instead be pod people. Tanya and Marty run, making it to the helicopter while fighting off a group of approaching soldiers. But Andy runs up to them and they let him aboard. After taking off, Andy, who is actually a pod duplicate, tries to bring down the helicopter. After a scuffle, a heartbroken Marty throws pod Andy out of the helicopter to his death. As Marty weeps for the destruction of her whole family, Tanya murmurs to her over their headsets, saying, "I thought about what you said, that Sartre line. I think you had it backwards. I remembered this passage from a poem I read. Which way I fly is hell, myself am hell, and in the lowest deep, a lower deep, still threatening to devour me, opens wide, to which the hell I suffer seems a heaven." The next morning, Tanya uses the helicopter's rockets to destroy the base and the trucks filled with pods. When they land on another base, the words of Pod Carol can be heard. Now recontextualized, Marty and Tanya are now, together, inescapably bound by what they have done. The end.
You inserting poetry quotes is like...
That's my thing at this point.
Yeah.
But okay.
You've already done that like 4 times.
I know.
We've done 10 episodes.
Look, okay, you
Leprechauns probably like quoting W.B. Yeats.
It would be fitting.
Yeah.
I just, I'm a scholar of literature, so I just turn to it. It's so natural for me. But I was interested in this idea of like Marty being so sort of implacable, thinking that like it's like everyone else around me is hemming me in, is destroying me, is ruining my life. But really, I think the pod people know this, but also Tanya, who has been through a kind of depersonalization through being in the military, like, no, it's you. It's you. Like, you are the piece of sand inside the oyster that produces the pearl. Like, you cannot accept yourself. You cannot accept others. And you're just, like, constantly chafing. So... I love the idea of using the Sartre as like I'm a kind of slightly self-absorbed teenager who can't stand being around other people. But in the end, we go for something older as like the truer philosophy of the movie. We go for Milton instead, like wherever I am, I'm the problem. I'm the one who tortures myself. And instead of accepting a change or adapting, I have chosen fire and death. And I have lost my family, not just passively, but like I had a hand in undoing them. I killed my own father, you know? So there's like, I wanted to explore a slightly different version of the character because I think Marty is really interesting. And sort of, I think she's kind of the beating heart of the movie for me.
Yeah. I do think you may have a historical problem on your hands, however.
Oh,
there might be a way to do this that would make sense. This may not actually be an obstacle, but in a way that I realize. But women were not permitted to be in combat roles until 2016.
What?
Yeah. So
how did I not even? I didn't even realize.
Yeah,
that.
so Tanya could not have gone to Kuwait to have shot anybody.
Oh my God, that's insane.
Yeah, 2016, and there's a lot of talk now about reversing that because, of course, there is.
Oh my God, because everything
climate.
is horrible. Yeah. That like now that you say that, I feel like I do remember that being big news. But I'd completely forgotten that.
Yeah, as soon as you said that, I mean, I'm sure you saw me pull up my cell phone.
I was like, oh God, what have I done?
Yeah, that was. So I'm not going to say that I don't know enough about the military to say that situation that is impossible. Because it might not be. I don't know that, but that's something that could be an obstacle for your revision.
Well, okay. In my fantasy world where women have been in combat roles,
right?
The
movie's made in 1993, but set in 2016.
That's right. It's a science fiction film,
right?
I mean, I guess it kind of is.
It's a future scenario where in 2016 we also went to Kuwait. We liberated Kuwait in 2016.
It's an alternate history.
In 1993.
It's an alternate history, right? Like Desert Storm happened in like 2009. You know what I'm saying? The Gulf War was with okay, I don't know enough. I'm just going to get myself into trouble here. Apologies to any
I couldn't ascribe dates to the
veterans offended by what I've done. But okay, ignoring the logic problem. What do you think?
It's good. I mean, I think it's much more direct, though. That would be my critique of your critique. Basically, there's a lot more direct people talking about their feelings. So I think on a second pass of that would be the way to go. Like, okay, let's pare that down.
I think so, but I don't know. I was kind of pleased. Like I still felt like I was able to sort of undermine the family unit here, but in a slightly different way.
Yeah, the decision to kill Steve, right, for Marty to have killed Steve, that's a bold move.
Well, like I remember thinking,
I like it for the brutality, for sure. Where I'm hesitant about it is, it does undermine her extraordinary ability to recognize people's emotions.
Oh, like, yeah, no, this Marty is less perceptive, or rather, like more sort of choked up in herself, I think.
Right.
So I and I said this is a slightly different take on that character.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I like the original version of the character. This was not born of me having a big character problem with anyone in the movie. This was just kind of an experiment.
Sure.
And honestly, I don't know. Like I feel like I could still tinker with this, and come up with something that's tighter and that kind of salvages the subtlety of the original movie a little bit more. But I was so intrigued by like the questions about sort of existentialism or nihilism that the movie poses that seemed really natural to bring in someone like Sartre, when this is about like people's failed relationships with other people and like how they just kind of disintegrate after a while. I don't know. So I was having fun. I was having a good time. Would you watch this movie?
I would watch that movie.
Cool. Well, can I hear about your revision?
You bet. Ready to get into it?
Let's get into it.
Okay. The movie opens in motion as a car moves through flat, unremarkable highway. Inside the car is a family. Marty, the teenage daughter, is busy ignoring everyone by reading a book with her headphones on. The other three, the father Steve, mother Carol, and little brother Andy, are laughing and talking normally. On their way to their destination, they stop at a gas station. Steve asks the attendants if they are headed in the right direction toward the base, which they affirm. Otherwise, it proceeds normally from there. She's attacked in the bathroom. No voiceover is what's being clarified here. Yeah, so no voiceover. So we have a little bit of dialogue, just a touch from the gas station attendants demonstrating that we're on the way to a military base, because the voiceover is not giving it to us. Additionally, we haven't so far alluded to it, but when she gets back in the car, voiceover starts again. I'd forgotten about that until rewatching. So the voiceover picks back up and then is gone. So we're cutting the second voiceover as well, which I'm sure you would have done as well. The family pulls into the base's gates. Steve tells the gate officer that he is with the EPA and that the general is expecting them. They are permitted entry. That's in the original movie, but that's the point where you are actually told. I only mention it because it's important to say, okay, this is the point where the EPA thing is disclosed to the audience, because we've cut out that initial disclosure. So but it's so early on, like why put in the voiceover? It's right there anyway. So everything proceeds up to Jen collecting Marty. And the quote that's given in that scene is that she's at the base for, quote, "a month in hell with my dad and his wife," end quote. So that's when you first are revealed that in this version of the movie that Carol is her stepmother. So again, that's not an addition to the movie. I only pointed out because that's the first time the audience knows that information. Then, so the introduction to Jen's mother, the alcoholic, passed out unconscious. That night, Andy is getting ready for sleep, and Marty is sitting on her bed watching him. He asks her if she thinks their house back home misses them. She tells him houses don't have feelings. He considers this and says he thinks their house probably does anyway. She almost smiles. Carol appears in the doorway to say goodnight. She tells Andy that he looks handsome in his pajamas. She tells Marty to sleep well. It is not unkind. It is not anything. Marty says goodnight back in the same register. Polite, appropriate, and empty. So, very small scene here. 30 seconds, probably. But we have so little interaction between Marty and Carol. Obviously in a way that's deliberate, but it's a little too little for us to understand their relationship. So let's bring that forward just a touch. That's all that we're doing there. So we proceed with the agitated man complaining about his family. So the first abduction, basically, where you see soldiers come and collect an unconverted, not yet pod person. The following morning, Steve meets with General Platt, who is unenthused by Steve's presence on the base. Here it is revealed that Steve is an EPA regulator who is tasked with inspecting chemical storage by the military. Despite his apparent contempt towards Steve, General Platt assigns him an escort and promises to expedite his work on the base, stating briefly in a moment of apparent distraction that he has bigger fish to fry. So the important thing here, this is the actual first case where it's made clear that he's here on some kind of regulatory mission. So that's the final element, I think, that was in the voiceover that has now been funneled into the movie itself. But additionally, Platt knows something's up. No indication as to what at this point. And we know because we're watching a movie called Body Snatchers. But Platt, yeah, he's aware that something is going wrong. Sure. So you can just glean that from a very subtle change to this scene. Otherwise, we proceed along. So the soldiers drop off the pods into the family's new home. Andy's in daycare. So all of the other children have painted horrible red tentacles. Andy has painted a house. Otherwise, the same. Marty's collected by Jen, and the duo head to the bar. Marty and Tim strike up a conversation. Tim asks how her brother is, and she says that he is kind of weirded out, but not before quickly correcting Tim by saying that Andy is her half-brother. That was the one bit of information that wasn't there. So just it's important to mention that they are not fully related by blood. So everything proceeds the same for quite a while, actually. So up to the point when Carol becomes a pod, or reveals herself as a pod person, all of that is the same. So really light touch here. But I did want to make one minor addition to the scene when she makes her reveal. So she has her big speech. Where are you gonna go? Yeah, that whole thing. You're listening now, Steve. That's good. I understand that. That scene. I hate to even touch it because I think that scene is
great.
So great. It's so great. But there's enough dialogue in there. She's delivering. There's actually quite a lot of dialogue in there. It's being delivered really rapidly. So I just wanted to slot in one more line that I think matters. So the dialogue I've added to that is no more anger, no more disappointment, no more pretending. And I think that's really important, the no more pretending. So we want to position the pod people as being truer than the false life that Steve is living. I think that's interesting. That taking elevating, like bringing that up to the surface of the movie. So let's bring that forward just a little bit. So anyway, everything proceeds along again as we had seen it. Then Tim wakes up because of the resulting chaos. Finally, Tim outmaneuvers the group and flees on foot. We see him flee past isolated pockets of resistance. Human soldiers fight off pod soldiers and their families, though curiously, only the human soldiers seem to be using firearms. Hiding behind cover for a moment, Tim is grabbed by General Platt, who orders him to flee, stating, "You're going to walk out there and you are going to be a gray man. Nothing on your face, nothing in your eyes. They can be fooled." Platt breaks away and joins the fray, and Tim watches in horror as the human soldiers kill an apparent pod child, which causes him to finally retreat in horror. Helicopters fly overhead and surveil the scene with their spotlights and watch as convoys, fleeing, drive over spike strips and their drivers are pulled from the vehicles. So this is not terribly dissimilar from the way that it plays out in the original movie. Obviously, with the exception being General Platt is added here as a human. But I want this to... I want to add like a minute or two to this. I want to linger in the scenes of chaos. I want to see everything break down. I want the military to have their due, and because I think the movie is working with the military in a way that's interesting. So I want to see the military trying to mount a resistance. I think the pro-military element of this movie is surprisingly fun and interesting because, again, the movie goes in such a direction I didn't expect it to go in. So, but the overwhelming behemoth of what this movie could be, which is some kind of anti-military comment, some comment on conformity. If you see the military posting up a better resistance, it's going to help you realize what the movie is actually going for. So that's the subtle change I wanted to bring forward. Additionally, General Platt says you're going to walk out there and you're going to be a gray man. That's a special ops term. That's a real thing. There was a movie a couple of years ago starring Ryan Gosling. It's like a Netflix original called The Gray Man.
Isn't Gray Man also like a figure in like the Half-Life world where he's just sort of a government spook?
I don't know.
Or like a mysterious...
Yeah, I guess it could be, but yeah, it's like basically it's a person who's not noticed. Like it's an incognito. It's like a special ops thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did some Googling on that one because I'm not up on military stuff, so this lingo is not familiar to me.
Well, and of course, Little Gray Men being like such a funny alien crossover. Sure, yeah.
But I wanted General Platt to have more of a role in this. Not much here, but like you, I wanted him to have a little bit more of a presence. So, after hiding Marty and Andy in a warehouse, Steve traverses the base and sees various scenes of the chaos unfold and then taper off as the soldiers' resistance begins to crumble. So I wanted to spend a little bit more time with Steve alone, watching the humans succumb and lose. That's so again, same impulse as what we had just prior to that. But I also wanted to linger in time a little bit here because later on we see General Platt as a pod person right after this. I want to keep that scene. So I wanted the passage of time to have been great enough that the audience doesn't question, like, damn, he turned into a pod person, that damn fan. That was, I didn't want that to be awkward. So we can linger there on the chaos and tragedy of what's taking place. So that remains the same. Major Collins shoots himself in the head. Steve is nearby. Steve returns to his children, says he's found a way out. They drive aimlessly through the military base. So the chaos in the base has reached its final nadir. We are cutting Steve explaining to Marty that if you don't show any emotion, the pod people can be fooled. So I only give the context just to say that that element is gone. So Steve is not the person who's introducing that information. That's General Platt, who has introduced it to Tim. So that is the case. So otherwise it proceeds as it is. Marty kills her father, but it's not her father.
Right.
It's Pod Steve. They head toward the airfield. At this point, Marty shared Pod Steve's advice with Tim in the original version. She does not here because Tim already knows it. Marty doesn't. That is how that plays out. Eventually, so we continue on again, all the same until Tim and Marty are walking out of the infirmary, at which point he then tells her to conceal her emotions, that they can be fooled. So he is now sharing that tactic, right? With this point, that's when they talk about it, which this is not terribly dissimilar to how it plays out in the movie because as they're going out, he's saying, like, you can do this. They're sort of already talking about it in the original cut. Otherwise, we're not doing much else to it except for the final sequence. The next morning, this is when they're in the helicopter. The next morning, Marty asks Tim where they're going. With uncertainty, he mentions Fort McPherson in Atlanta. Marty says that they'll never believe them. After a meaningful exchange of looks, Tim turns the helicopter around. They have found the trucks filled with pods, which they destroy with the helicopter's rockets. They press on until they have returned to the base. Marty points to a building below, saying, "That's where my father said they moved them." Tim nods and fires a rocket at the building. This is the warehouse in which the chemicals were moved, which explodes in spectacular fashion, destroying much of the base initially and spreading fire throughout the remainder. Tim empties the rest of his firepower into the base's other buildings and barracks as Marty looks on with a hateful glare. Many pod people are seen burning and suffering below. Following their attack, the duo fly to the fort in Atlanta. The personnel below direct them to land as Marty, with a fearful look, grabs Tim by the arm and softly speaks his name. While they land, the words of Pod Carol can be heard. Where you gonna go? Where you gonna run? Where you gonna hide? Nowhere, because there's no one like you left. That's it.
Ooh, so you used a very light touch.
Very light.
Sure.
Yeah.
Whisper light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the hard part about this. I think that like this movie, I had to resist the urge to do very much to it.
Sure.
Because I think this movie is really, really, really strong.
Yeah.
Already.
Yeah. I think
we had a couple of small problems, a couple of opportunities for some minor changes.
Yeah.
Cut the voiceover.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. I felt like I had to do more, just like because of the premise of our show, like I felt like I had to turn in something substantially different.
I'd resist that urge. Yeah,
Oh,
I
good
hear
for
you,
you.
but I was
Good
like,
for you.
I think that's not what this movie needs.
I think you are right. I think this movie is fundamentally just like less flawed than most of the films that we've talked about so far. And even something like I think other than this, the movie we've enjoyed the most has been, or like as it is Ghost Story, which still had some sort of serious stuff to sculpt out. But this, as you say, like it's so close to being really compact, and like complete. So yeah, that's really interesting. But no, it's a good revision.
I think I think adding a little bit more Major Collins in here would be a reasonable thing to do. Sure. I think you could spend a little bit of time with the military. I think you could do more of seeing barracks. I was thinking about some of this. You could do stuff like barracks lit up at night.
Sure. Yeah.
Subtle things that like soldiers are trying not to sleep. Things like that.
Yeah.
I was looking for places to slot that kind of thing into it. Like I wanted the military to be in on it, or not in on it, as in like they're part of they know something's up. They're not in on the alien invasion. Right. I want them to be the resistance, and I thought it would be a way you could push that further. Again, light touch, right? Yeah. But I was thinking a way you could push that idea further is have them be exploited by their families who are present.
Sure.
So the military itself is actually the unit that's able to resist, whereas the family is coming in like, well, Soldier Bob, you're doing great as part of the military, but you got a wife and kid on base.
And they're going to be the ones who drag him under.
Yeah.
Or them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because it's a domestic military base. All right, so you could do that.
Yeah, like if you're on rotation, maybe you're safer than when you're off.
Yeah, there's a lot of military structural stuff that I'm not equipped to address without doing a lot more research than I did. And I did do some, certainly.
Sure.
But so there's opportunities there. Though, again, I think this movie is so close to perfect as it is. I would be pretty careful about adding anything else.
Yeah, well, obviously my revision used a heavier hand than yours, but I think for honestly most of the stuff that I changed, I didn't change it because I thought it was a big problem. I changed it just to see what would happen to the movie if I did.
Sure.
So I think we're kind of working off of a similar impulse here. It's just that we ended up doing different things. But yeah, I totally agree. I think this movie mostly works well. But yeah, this has been an interesting one to discuss.
Yeah. All right. Well, we all set?
I think we're all set.
Okay. Well, folks, which revision would you most like to see on screen? What movie would you like to see us cover next? Let us know at thedevilsworkshoppod@gmail.com.